What's going on, New Canoe Nation? Welcome back for another epic unlimited podcast. If you're tuning in on the Facebook page, the YouTube page, drop in the comments where you're tuning in from, what kind of boat you're floating out of, and all that good stuff. Go down in that lower left-hand corner, smash that share button. Let's get some folks up in the house here. Got an epic guest tonight. But just a reminder, next week, ICAST, baby. Woo! ICAST starts Tuesday. I will be down there along with our guests tonight and many of our other team guys. We'll have Blake in the house, maybe Everett Park. Where's Everett Park tonight? Yeah, where's Everett? Definitely not in the chat, bro. I see how it is. Got Matt Davis in the house, Garrett Pate, Fish Chasers over on YouTube. Oh, man. Romel will be in the house at ICAST, the wizard himself. Oh, man. I don't know if I can handle all this excitement. So stay tuned. Watch the Facebook page, the YouTube page, wherever you guys like tuning in on. And we'll have some cool stuff coming to you from ICAST. And it'll be awesome. Trey Johnson is asking, will New Canoe be unveiling anything at ICAST? I plead the fifth. Matt Davis says, I wish I could be there at ICAST. Dude, we'll sneak you in the back door. Don't tell anybody I said that, though. I mean, I did just say that publicly, so that's probably not a good thing. But let's get our guest in the house, Mr. Mark Savidge, coming in with us all the way from the wonderful state of New Jersey. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, Brian. Good to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, you're like a true OG when it comes to the New Canoe. I didn't realize. I think you said what? 11 years you told me, I think it was.
Yeah, I think I bought my new canoe in 2010, fall of 2010. So that was even before the Frontier was out.
So it was classic 12 or classic
12. Classic 12.
Nice.
And that was an awesome boat. That was a lot of fun.
Do you still have the classic 12?
No, and I regretted the day I had seller's remorse the day after I sold it. I sold it to get a Pursuit, which I love, but I still wanted to keep that around because it's a lot of fun. It was a neat boat. It still is a neat boat. Yeah. I'm hoping to get another one.
It's crazy. I hadn't seen one in years, and then I saw one again just this past spring at one of our New Canoe dealers in Tennessee, Eastport Marina, one of our newest dealers. And I was kind of blown away because there was a classic 12 sitting right next to a Frontier 12. And then there was a Pursuit right next to that. And it was just kind of cool to stand back and see the evolution of the boats. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, it's been cool to see.
So
paddle them all.
Oh, yeah, I bet. So, let's get a little background on you, man. Like, how did you get into fishing? What drew you to the kayaks? And what drew you to New Canoe, my friend?
Yeah, well, I started fishing probably, when I was probably 4 years old, started going out saltwater fishing down here at the South Jersey shore. And my dad and grandpa taking me out on the head boats and flounder fishing and all that. So I grew up in the salt. I never freshwater fished until 2010. Till the year I got my kayak. Right before I got that, we had moved back to New Jersey, and I have two daughters. One was, I think, 9, the other was 11, and they wanted to go fishing, so we started going to the local lake off the bank, and they really enjoyed it. And then I heard about kayaks, so I went down to a dealer down the shore. I had done a ton of research, and I wanted something stable, that I don't have great balance or anything, so I wanted something real stable and something I could stand in and all of that. So I was looking at a couple different kayaks. At that time, they didn't have many that were real stable, and so I found a dealer that had the one I wanted to look at. I went down there, and West Creek Kayak used to be a New Canoe dealer, and Glenn just talked to me, listened to me, what I was looking for, and he says, I'll let you paddle that one, but you're not going to like it for what you want. He said, I want you to paddle all my kayaks here. But he says, I'm going to put you in the one you're going to get last. And that was a classic because I had told him, I said, I'd love to be able to take my girls out and all this. And he goes, well, this is going to fit all your needs and, be able to go out tandem and be able to go out solo. And, I got in the classic and started paddling it. And I was just like, this is pretty cool. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's how I got in it. He was a great dealer and listened and let me demo and, you find the right one for you, and it worked out well.
That's super huge. I think that's like the best advice ever. I've talked about it so many times, not only here, but on the other podcasts I do, and working at my local dealer and things like that. Like, sometimes customers come into the shop with their mind made up on what they want without even paddling it, right? And I think the best advice you can ever give anybody is try them all and see what's going to suit your needs best. Like I've always, you always get the question like, oh, what's the perfect boat? And my answer to that always is there's no such thing as a perfect boat, but there's perfect boats for perfect situations, So that's interesting. That's cool that like even back then your dealer was knowledgeable enough, to say, hey, why don't you try all these, and see if that's exactly what suits your needs.
Yeah, and it worked out perfect. I mean,
So
it's a good kayak.
It's been downhill from there.
It has. I've never gotten out of a new canoe after that. So it's just been awesome. And first met Blake in 2011 when he went on the Frontier Tour and toured the country with the trailer and went to all these dealers all around. And my dealer said, hey, you got to meet this guy Blake from New Canoe, and that was when I first met him. And so that was pretty cool too. You're just like, wow, this is a great guy, and you can tell right away. And I'm just like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a stand-up dude. It's funny if you've never met Blake and you ever get the opportunity, don't pass it up. Super cool guy, and just very, very humble and down to earth for sure.
Yeah, for
sure. I got that. I'm trying to pull it up here. Boom. There's the picture. The first time you met Blake. What year was that, you said?
That was 2011, I believe. 2011, 2012, maybe at the latest.
Okay.
I don't know what year the Frontier came out, but that was, I took my nephew down there because he was looking, and he had since gotten a Frontier. He still has it today, as a matter of fact. So
that's awesome. And, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a family affair with you guys over there. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
The daughters, the nephews. Does your wife go out with you as well?
No, she has some health issues that she can't get out on the kayak, but she's supportive, so that's good stuff.
Right on, man. Right on. Very cool. Well, I know, like talking before we got started here, you grew up saltwater fishing, and you didn't really start freshwater fishing until 2010. You said 2010, 2011.
2010, yeah.
Yeah,
2010.
Very cool.
I had gotten my new canoe, and I reached out. I started seeing, wow, there's clubs around, and I found a local club, and there was a guy that lived 3 blocks away from me that was in the club, so I gave him a call, and he started taking me out bass fishing, and it's a South Jersey Kayak Bass Fishing Club, and it's just a great club because all the guys, they pal around together, and I've learned so much from them on bass fishing and stuff, and had so much fun. And my schedule, I get so busy sometimes I forget to get out, and being in the club helps me to kind of forces me to put those tournament dates on and get out with the guys, and it's a good time.
Gives you that extra push. That's cool.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was last year, I did a podcast. It was like a tournament recap, and we had talked about a Jersey club. And I remember we were kind of blown away with the limits that were coming in from the tournament. Like, you hear New Jersey and you automatically think saltwater fishing. You don't think of bass fishing necessarily. And it was kind of mind blowing. You guys got some really good bass fishing over there.
There can be good, but there's a lot of pressure. And North Jersey's got a lot of deeper water. South Jersey's all a lot of mud puddles, but there's mud puddles that can have some big bass in them. So
Yeah.
it's pretty neat. Yeah, when you can find them and stick a pattern and all that good stuff.
What's your favorite kind of way to catch them?
Bass, top water.
Yeah, top water.
Top
frog,
water.
Frog guy.
I actually like a popper. I use a wrapless skitter pop.
Okay, all right.
That's one of my favorite lures, confidence lures. I start every tournament with it, actually.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like it. It seems like the popper's coming back more and more these days.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I'm in a couple group chats with some guys, and everybody's been talking about poppers lately. So that's cool to see. I remember, I started fishing topwater with those when I was maybe 11 or 12, and geez, that was decades ago, but it's super cool, man. Super cool. I like it. But when you're not on the freshwater, you're out chasing some bigger fish out on the saltwater, man. So, you told me that striper fishing is kind of like one of your go-tos when you're hitting that saltwater, one of your favorite fish, right?
Yeah. So striper fishing out of a kayak is just addicting, and I don't venture out the inlets too much out into the ocean, but I like fishing the sod banks in the back, and kayak is perfect for trolling along sod banks for stripers. A lot of times the boats can't do it; they can't go slow enough.
Okay.
And you're in the kayak and you can get just the right speed, and man, you can have some days. I had some days this spring where I was out for 4 hours and caught 40 bass.
Oh, geez.
And you're just slamming them. And before the pivot drive came out, I was paddling with the rod resting in front of me in a rod holder. And when you would get a hit trolling with that, it was a Chinese fire drill trying to get the rod out and drop your paddle. And so when you landed one that way, you felt pretty good. Pivot drive makes it a lot easier.
I bet. So can you, is there a line limit for when you're trolling? Can you only troll one line, or can you do two?
You can do two. I found that it's sometimes more hassles than it's worth trying to do two, because you're trolling so slow.
Sure.
You can really get them tangled and stuff like that. So I think if I was trolling faster, I could probably get away with two.
Okay. You trolling crankbaits, or what's like the baits you're using to kind of target those?
Probably the go-to is what's called a tube and worm.
Okay.
And it's like about a 15-inch piece of surgical tubing with a wire in the middle, and you kind of corkscrew it. And then you stick a bloodworm or something on the back of it just to tip it for scent. And you troll that, and it corkscrews through the water real slow.
Okay.
And it kind of like bounces off the bottom, and that can be killer. We troll, shad bodies, 5-6 inch shad bodies will do, and on little jig heads, and stretches, stuff like that. Yeah, you can troll a lot of neat stuff.
What kind of speed are you trying to stay around? I know speed could be a big factor.
About a mile an hour.
Okay.
A mile and a half. You want to stay just ahead of the current. If you're going with the current, you just want to go just ahead of the current speed.
Okay.
And if you're going against the current, you want to kind of keep it around a mile per hour, just enough to kind of bounce that off. You'll feel it bouncing off the bottom sometimes.
Right on.
And they sit in the sod banks, fall into the water as erosion and things, and the stripers sit in those holes, and so they'll see that coming by, bouncing along, and just slam it.
Interesting.
It's pretty fun. Pretty fun.
You running like an inline weight or something like that?
Yeah.
You get it down to your depths. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the reason why I ask, and I'm so interested, is I go up to Green Bay quite often and troll for walleyes, and when we're pulling crawler harnesses, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. Trolling speeds between like 0.9 and 1.4 miles an hour, and like that speed can be such a crucial thing sometimes. If you're going you wouldn't think 0.1 mile an hour would make that much of a difference, but it does. And, same kind of setups, it seems. Super, super cool, man. Super cool.
And like I said, you get to the right creek mouths with the right tides, and you can get some fish back there.
Just
hard getting a lot of size, but you can get some decent fish.
What would you say is your biggest striper you've ever caught?
My biggest off the kayak was actually good size. It was 40 inches, and it was my first saltwater fish off my kayak. I was an idiot, and I thought, well, I can just go out. And I went out in November in New Jersey, which is pretty cold. I went out alone overnight in my kayak. Didn't have any dry gear or anything like that. And I'm just paddling around all night and trying to fish the bridges and doing nothing. And then dawn hit, and I anchored up next to a sandbar and just put a piece of bunker out. And it was out for like 2 minutes. And I was like, I went out all night, wasted all that time at night, risked my life. I could have just came out in the morning, and I was 100 yards from the boat ramp. So, but it's pretty fun.
That's cool, man. That's cool. What would you say like that fish weighs, like weight wise?
That one I think was probably around 20 to 22, maybe.
That's a beast of a fish.
Fat, but it was good size.
That's a nice chunky fish, man.
Yeah.
Well, we got a comment coming in here, and I think this is part of your fan base here. Debbie Savage is tuning in, and she says, "What's Mark's favorite new canoe kayak and why?" She's putting you on the burner here.
Yeah, she wants to get me a new one. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe two. Maybe two.
Yeah. No, my favorite new canoe is the Pursuit. I just for me, for bouncing between saltwater and freshwater, and liking to paddle as much as I do, and pedal now, the Pursuit is just lights out for me, what I do. Yeah.
Right on. I mean, it's such an easy paddling boat, and it's quick in the water. It's got the stability, man. It really is hard to beat.
Yeah, it's got the nice glide, and I always tell Blake, I said one of my favorite features is something nobody really talks about, is it's quiet. We fish a foot of water sometimes, and you come in there, and you can come in and there's no hull slap or anything. You can just sneak right up on them, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about that much.
Yeah, it's got that real angled bow, and it kind of comes in real quiet.
Nice. I like that, man. I like that. Very cool. Very cool. Well, when you're out on the salt, what and stripers aren't biting, what's your other go-to fish?
Bluefish. If the big bluefish are around, you can't beat big bluefish in the back, just because shallower water, they just go nuts. And pound for pound, they're probably one of the better fighting fish inshore. And they're a blast. I think I've caught them up to about 36 inches long on my kayak, which is about probably 13 pounds maybe.
That's cool.
Is a big bruiser. And then we fish the bridges for tog quite a bit. Tautog at Blackfish. They're a lot of fun. You can get them a lot of times. When you're in the saltwater, you just play the tides all day. And usually slack tide, you go to the bridges and play with tog before the tide gets running again. And you can time it out. Pretty neat. And then, we do a lot of fluke fishing in the back this time of year, and drift around for flounders. And just hard getting out there this time of year. Too many jet skis and boats around, and just they think it's fun to try to swamp you and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So you got to go out early.
Sure. What's your favorite saltwater fish you like to eat that's from up around your parts?
To eat? That would be sea bass.
Sea bass, okay.
Black sea bass, yep. Get out on the wrecks and fish them on the boat, yeah. They're good eating fish.
Nice, okay. I've never had sea bass. We had a conversation. A friend of mine told me about the togfish. He claims it's the bee's knees.
Yeah,
I've never.
Awful good.
I'm just so fascinated with saltwater fishing because I've never done it before, and I just know there's so many different species that you can chase, you know. Whereas when you're on freshwater, most of us in kayaks are thinking bass, you know.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I like chasing some panfish from time to time, and you know, northern pike and things like that. But I don't know, saltwater, man, it's just a whole new beast. I guess that brings up something interesting, and it goes back to what you were talking about the first time you went out. Like, you know, you didn't have any cold weather gear and stuff like that. So I guess if a guy was you know, on the coastal waters and, you know, wanted to get in a kayak and go out and fish the ocean a little bit, like what would be some good pointers and recommendations, you know, to make sure that they're going to go out, have a good time, but be safe and all that good stuff? What's some key things they should look for?
Well, besides the good PFD, I mean, you know, I never go out without a PFD on all the time. Probably, you know, first of all, look at the tides. You know, one of the guys who taught me kayak fishing in the salt water that I never thought of before. His name's Tom Michael. He's told me what when high tide is and when low tide. Look at the tide cycles. You know, if it's running 5 foot tide or a 3 foot tide, because you could get caught out, you know, where you have wind and the tide against you and you're not getting back against it, you know, and you could get swept out or just get stuck somewhere where you can't paddle back or pedal back against that kind of tide. So you got to watch the tides, and then water temperature. Anything under 60 degrees at the minimum, I'm in at least dry pants and probably a dry top as well. Because that you can get in a lot of trouble real fast in that cold water. Even if the air feels good and the water's cold, you can get in a lot of trouble fast. I actually dumped out of my new canoe back in a creek I was fishing. Water temperature was 50 degrees. I had dry pants on, but I was caught on a crab trap, and I reached over to get it and went the other way, lost my balance, and fell out.
Oh man.
And it's only 3 feet of water, but it was all mud, so you couldn't get in. So I had a kayak rescue ladder, you know, one of those ropes you step in and got back in. But then, even though the air was warm because the water was so cold, I was freezing. I had to paddle 2 miles back to the ramp where I had some dry clothes, and it was just freezing.
I
And
bet.
I was by myself, you know, and that's probably another thing. You shouldn't go by yourself when you're in the salt water. So most of these things I've learned the hard way, you know, and most of those lessons. And then I usually carry a radio with me as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was going to be my next question. Do you
yeah,
carry a marine radio on you?
yeah, yeah. I always have one on clipped to my seat.
So for a dummy from the Midwest that knows nothing about tides, like what's the difference between high tide and low tide? Is high tide where it's coming in and then low tide it's going out?
Yeah, yeah. And certain times of the year, high tide's good, and certain times of the year, in certain species, low tide's good. In the spring, a lot of times you want to fish the outgoing because the water's going to warm up because the water's
Okay.
cold coming in out of the ocean.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then it sits in there in high tide and starts coming out, and it gets warmer, and like the flounder will turn on, the fluke will turn on when it gets a little warmer. But then in the summer, you want to fish the incoming, and um, you know, and then the full moon, the tide is ripping, so you need to be careful about that and look at the wind directions, wind speeds when the tide is ripping, and you know, like down where I fish, anything over 5 foot, you kind of want to really be careful because that can really get cranking.
Yeah, I've heard some stories of some guys, you know, getting kind of stuck where they're trying to go against that tide or the current coming out, and it's like you said, you're going nowhere fast. That can be pretty scary. You can get
Yeah,
washed out to sea,
yeah,
you know, end up on an island talking to a volleyball for
that's right.
years.
That's right. In the most populated state in the United States, and you're out, and you can get into some pretty scary spots. But yeah, yeah, it's some scary stuff. And then a good float plan is always nice. You know, you ride the tide in. A lot of times, what I'll do is where I fish is closer to the inlet, so I'll ride the incoming tide and take it all the way back out to the back into the flats, and then have the tide bring me back out, and it's a lot easier.
Using it to your advantage.
Yeah,
That's
use
pretty
it to your
cool.
advantage instead of going against what you need to do.
Yeah, that's cool. I think the biggest thing is just let somebody know where you're going, where you're
Yeah.
going to be, right? Like,
Oh yeah, my wife knows exactly where I'll show her my float plan some days and just say I'm going to start here and I'm going to end up here, and just so she knows.
that's smart. That's smart. I mean, I know I try to do that when I do like river float trips and stuff like that here in the Midwest, just because you never know. You just never know when you're facing currents like that. I think people don't realize sometimes how powerful water really is.
That's for sure.
It's
Yeah, it's scary stuff.
yeah. I'd rather face some 100-mile-an-hour winds than some pretty fast moving water. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you're regional director for Team New Canoe. So every
Yeah.
regional director I've had on, I've asked them two questions: what's the best part about being a regional director, and what's the worst part about being a regional director?
Uh, Best part's got to be the guys. My team members in my region are just awesome. And I love talking with them. The worst part about that is I can't get around to see them as much as I want to.
Sure.
And travel around and fish as much with them. And they're always saying, hey, some of the New York guys are like, hey, you got to come up to upstate New York. I said, I want to come. It's just I got to get the time to do it. And
Sure.
trying to get away with some of that stuff. But, sometimes I feel guilty about it. I'm like, man, I got to get out fishing more. But it's so that's probably, yeah, that's kind of a cop out, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm
that's right.
sticking to
Hey,
it.
I totally get it, man. I totally get it. I mean, there's guys in my region here that I've talked to, and I'm like, man, we should, hook up and fish, but life gets in
Yeah,
the way
I was
sometimes.
I was actually over two regions up until this year. We did the Atlantic North, which is New Jersey, New York, Eastern PA, Eastern Maryland, Delaware, and then I also had New England.
Okay.
And so it was getting a lot. And one of our team members up in New England, Dave Fisick, just a great guy. And I've been kind of keeping my eye on him for a couple years because he really got what it is to be on the team and to kind of help manage guys. So I've
Sure.
been talking to Everett about him for over a year about saying this got to take over that region, free me up a little bit more. And so Dave just took over that region and has been doing a great job.
Very cool. Very cool.
So that was kind of nice to kind of train somebody up.
Yeah, watch him kind of come up the rank.
Really,
That's cool. That's very cool. Speaking of Everett Park, where's Everett Park? Where in the world's Everett Park? Don't see you in the chat, bro. Just saying. Got to give Everett a hard time. It's my running joke. But here's the $1 million question. Everybody gets it every show. You got a New Canoe Frontier 12. It's a rigged up tandem. You can go fishing with anyone, dead or alive. Who's it going to be?
Well, it would be, first of all, it'd be my wife, just because one of our first dates we went fishing together, and she never fished in her life, and those are our early dates. I'd take her fishing.
Okay.
And she didn't kill me, and she had a good time, and she's had some health problems in recent years, so she's never been able to get out on a kayak with me. So I'd love to get her out and just for her to experience a day. I try to film stuff for her, but it's not the same.
I hear
But
you.
probably off of fisherman type guys, man, I grew up watching some guys that I'd love to fish with, like Jose Wahibe. I grew up watching the Spanish Fly.
Yeah.
And I do that would be cool, just to hang with him and fish with him, and go to town there. But
Heck
probably
yeah.
him and Hank Parker, probably.
All right.
Two of my favorite kind of guys.
I like it, Mark. You started out with the brownie points, and then
That's
you
right.
went to the fisherman. I like it. You're really working on that new kayak. I get it. I
am.
get it.
Yep. Been married 26 years, I think now. So
Very
you
cool.
gotta learn those angles.
Yeah, congratulations, man. That's awesome. No, that's super cool. Out of all the people that have answered that, nobody has answered going out with their wife. So that's pretty cool. Very cool. Trey Johnson's chiming in. He says, "Smart man." That's awesome, man. So we're winding down here, man. I'll give you the floor. Anybody you want to thank, shout outs, any of that good stuff? What are you looking forward to most for iCast and all that good stuff, man?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'd like to thank the guys from my region. Obviously, Blake. Blake's just such a great guy, man. I'm just so neat to know him, and just to see the way he runs the business, and I respect him so much with what he does, and I would say Everett, but he's not watching, so I'm not gonna say it. So no, but I
Everett
love
gets
Everett.
Everett gets
Great.
no
Everett's a
credit.
great guy, and all the guys on the team, all the guys everybody at the office at New Canoe are awesome. If guys from my club are watching, those guys know I when I first started in the club, I didn't know how to hook a bass, and those guys kind of took me under some like Tom Michael and Lane, who's probably the best fisherman in our club. He would take time out of a tournament to come over to me and say, "Hey, what are you using? Hey, try this," and just learning how to catch bass, and then so that's been huge. ICAST, I look forward to being around all the guys on the team. My oldest daughter, she's got special needs, and she's always watching YouTube channels. She wants me to go. She's got a list of people she wants me to say hi to down there.
Cool.
So I gotta go on a Where's Waldo search for people down there too. But no, I'm looking forward to being around the guys from the team.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun just talking about the kayaks, and James. I think James will be there this year, who's the designer for, the engineer guy for New Canoe, and it's great talking with him about why he's done what he's done with each of the kayaks, and and designing them, and that's fascinating to me. And Romel, he's not going to have a moment's peace there either, because everybody's been talking to him.
Yeah, the wizard, man. You got to drill the wizard anytime you get a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, so I'll miss Mike Schmitz isn't going to be there this year, but that'll be my big bummer. I love hanging out with him.
Right on.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, we got one last question in the chat. I'll let you answer this, and then I'll give my 2 cents. But Zach Compton's asking, what's the best setup for tournament bass fishing?
Oh man, it depends what kind of fishing you're looking to do. I mean, I try to keep my kayak as minimal as possible. I'll usually just have a crate in back of me, usually about 5 rods rigged up, and I do a lot of finesse fishing. So for me, I say, I only bring one power fishing rod with me, and the rest are all finesse. For where we fish in Jersey, it's a lot of finesse fishing. So yeah, but I keep it as simple as I can get it out there, because I like staging rods in front of me. Even with the pivot drive, you have enough room on the sides of you to be able to lay the rods down and have them all staged so you can get them pretty quick. But I like having that space in front of me.
Nice. Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a motor guy, but I run a EPS style system off the back of my boat. I know a lot of guys like running the XI3s, especially some of the guys up in your region there. They love running them XI3s, which to each their own. I know guys that are still paddling during tournaments. I always tell folks, like, if you don't have the means for it, the beauty about New Canoe is you can always add it later on down the road. And I sometimes on tournament they go overboard, and I'll bring anywhere between 5 and 8 rods, and I got way too much gear, and I only use a fraction of it. But I think as the years have progressed, I've tried to get better about it. Like you said, keeping it simple, not as much stuff. It just doesn't clutter up your deck that way and things like that. So when you're going to measure fish, it's just much easier. So I think it's one of those things, Zach, where you're going to have to go out, put it through the paces, kind of get a feel for how you like your stuff set up and things like that. And but if you talk to most guys, I think they would say anywhere between realistically 4 and 6 rods they'll take with them, and a handful of baits, and whatever else you think you need. A graph, that's going to be a personal thing. Again, pedal, paddle, power, that's our forte. You can do all three. So Zach says, thanks. No problem, man. So very cool, man. Well, Mark, I appreciate you taking time away from the family tonight and sitting down, chatting with us. Look forward to seeing you in, a week.
Yeah,
Right around a
that'll
week,
be
man.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yep, look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For those of you that tuned in, if you tuned in late, you can always go back and watch this on the Facebook page, the YouTube page. And then also it gets uploaded to all the major podcast platforms as well. So if you're a podcast style person, you want to listen to it in the car while you're on the water, things like that, just go to any major podcast platform and search New Canoes Unlimited. This was episode 25, boys and girls. We're getting up there. I like it. Cranking away, different guests all the time. Again, next week, we will be coming at you live from iCast. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to do the Unlimited show right there from the booth. We'll get some of the guys in there that'll be around, and it'll be a lot of fun. I can already tell just by talking to some of these guys, it's going to be a hoot. So don't forget to miss us next week, but on our normal schedule, we are here every Tuesday at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock out on the West Coast. And look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Till next time, boys and girls, tight lines, smooth paddling.